Welcome to, I don't even know what the hell to call this. Interview with my brother, I guess, and another session of fleety talking and talking with people. For those of you wondering, this is Tim, my brother, and I'll let him explain himself just a little bit, and then we'll kind of go over some of the things that he's been helping me with that pulled me around into, I don't want to say being a better person. That sounds kind of weird, but a better outlook. If and most people who have seen the Facebook post will understand what this is about. If not, well, just go back and watch the video. So anyway, tell us about yourself.
Hmm. I'm Sean's older brother, Tim. I've been living in South Korea since I was assigned here by the United States Army in September of 2000, and I have yet to leave. I'm no longer in the Army. I got out in 2007 as a staff sergeant, and now I still work for the Department of the Army as a civilian GS employee, and I'm specifically my subject matter expertise is in human resources plus analysis. So I do that for a unit here as a S1 chief. That's not really important. It helps me support my family and support my life and what I'm really trying to achieve over here. Some of that will come to light here in a minute as I explain some of the stuff that me and Sean have been discussing and what led to me to eventually invite him over here to help him out. To start with, Sean, I've been noticing all the time that we talked, he was having issues, and some of the symptoms he was explaining and mental attitudes would be something similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, something that I do have and had to deal with since my time in the Army and being deployed into combat zones. We brought him here to help him deal with it in a more effective way than, what would I say? I would say basically, man, you're going to have to accept how I say things. I'm very direct and brutal. I think most psychologists and therapists are exactly pseudoscience and quacks. They need to remember that most of what they're doing is secularized astrology, alchemy, and bits and pieces of certain Kabbalah depending on which person they choose to go off of. And my big impression of that is that most of those people, when they realize what they've actually dealing with, the problem with psychology and the thing, people that try to help others forget that psychology is secularized. In fact, many of the systems that it came from were developed by actual occult. Well, to understand what the word occult means, it simply means hidden. It doesn't mean devil worship. So what a lot of people have done have been trying to use methods to assist others when they're just as messed up as the people they're trying to help. And in fact, they've never applied it to themselves. And when you secularize sacred things to assist other people or to help guide them as they assist themselves in line with what the Creator says, when you secularize it, you run into trouble. Through my time in dealing with PTSD, my time in the Army, prior to that, I would say the one big thing that keeps coming back to my experiences and application is as soon as you divorce the Creator from any of the actual aspects of it, it's more trouble than it's worth. In fact, nature in and of itself, and with some of the Kabbalistic teachings or people that are dealing with the occult or esoteric, will find that there's an interesting force that pushes us back by means of pain and suffering back to the right path. In fact, once you figure it out and finally open up properly to the correct flow, you will find that things become, it wouldn't become easier, because life is not easy for anybody regardless of how you do it. It's actually, it opens you up to a better acceptance of the things going around, and then you're not looking at all the problems going on.
It adjusts your focus.
It adjusts your focus on the fact that, I don't know, it's cliche to say this, but the silver lining in the cloud. Yeah, we go back to one of the basic teachings on Kabbalah about prayer. What is prayer? Prayer is simply asking the Creator to change your opinion and your vision upon what is happening, so that you can learn from it. A lot of people don't realize that the reason why they're in the situation or why they're in their situation has to do with the fact that they made a choice a long time ago or just now that they forget has consequences and rewards no matter what they choose or choose not to do. And then when their life sucks, everybody immediately tries to treat the Creator like some computer. I want X, Y, and Z, hit enter, and boom, presto. That's not how the Creator works, nor does the universe, nor does nature. And if you screw with things, divorcing the Creator from that aspect, you typically will find yourself in a world of pain. And the pain is meant to drive you back into a path that would require study and research and then application, rather than hit and miss, trial and error through pain and suffering.
No one-size-fit-all instant cures, basically.
No, because each person's life has something different, and each person makes their own choices according to their environments, what's internally going on, their life experiences, things happen. When it comes to PTSD, and I'll just go ahead and say it because some people, other friends of mine have actually asked me, you mentioned that your PTSD goes further back than when you were in the Army, and I'm going to say yes. In fact, the PTSD I have began when I was an EMT, and all the things that you're involved in there. I mean, not everything. Sometimes it's an old lady who fell out of a bed. That's not a big deal. But when you're dealing with people that are smashed and pulverized and dying because some drunk idiot decided to get on the road, that's another deal. You'll now begin to wonder what's going on. And it's no different than the questioning of saving a life, whether it's the enemies or friendly soldiers, and then you happen to kill people in order to save another life. Some interesting things for a later time, maybe, if I ever choose to discuss that outside of my own group of people that I discuss with. But the PTSD can go even further back, because I actually started working in a funeral home. In fact, that's where I began when I graduated high school. Before I joined the Army, and while I was becoming an EMT, going to school, I worked at a funeral home as a mortician apprentice. And so the interesting topic of death and grief and the acceptance of it, the denial of it, all those stages of grief, it was actually introduced to me right out of high school. So I have a different look than most people look about death. And in fact, I found that my outlook in death and how it works with life is probably considered a bit strange to most, but I find it very compatible with what a lot of sacred texts and any religious belief is actually really talking about. Nothing to be scared of. It's actually probably, when I've watched people die or dealt with them after they've died, it's probably one of the most peaceful things I've ever seen. Not the manner in which they die, but how the body reacts as soon as they pass away. I've kept that in mind because it's always haunted me throughout my life as to, if that's death, everybody has the knowledge of death, then what is life? What does life mean? I mean, I've read all kinds of people's stuff. In fact, one of my favorite people that try to describe life, who was it, World War and Peace, the Russian author.
Dostoevsky? No, not Dostoevsky.
Starts with a T. It's not Trotsky, it's
Tolstoy.
Tolstoy, there we go.
Yeah.
He wrote what's called the Confessions. They're actually still outlawed in Russia and banned by the Russian church and the Russian state from being read. But it was interesting and amusing when you read his confessions about what is life about. As he begins to describe it, and then he passes away, which was amusing. He passed away before he could answer that, but I think that's a very interesting eye-opener to the fact that what does life, what is the purpose of life, what is the meaning of life, why are we here? I think that's what we're all supposed to be seeking. And I don't think it's the seeking of knowledge in books, but more rather than seeking the truth of how to apply. I think that's more the journey. How do I apply? Bringing Sean here starts with an interesting deal that, like, I'm a Freemason, but then there are other groups I'm a member of or mentor in. And one of the key teachings that you always find in any belief system, if you want to call it spiritual or whatever, deals with charity. It's abundant everywhere, charity. And my research into what charity is going to boil down to this. It's not about a piece of paper printed with a value as declared by the government or rare minerals in the earth or some jewels. That's not. And giving you that to help alleviate your material issues doesn't really qualify as charity. I mean, it does for a little bit. But in charity, what I have found for myself, I'm not speaking for others, but charity has to do with me coming back to realization that time, the Creator allowed me a certain amount of time, and everybody else on this planet, a time for my soul to inhabit this body, the human vessel that's my soul is using to experience time and space and motion and matter. The best charity I found that I could give is my time. That sacred gift the Creator gave to me, I now give it to others. Some of my time to assist them with their time, their issues, their problems. It can be something simple as just listening. Simply listening. Other times it could be more than, now that I've listened, maybe I can assist you with some other ideas. Come be with me. Hang out with me. But it comes down to this. If I'm standing before a group of people and swearing upon a holy book or a volume of sacred law, or whatever you want to call it, I'm swearing that, dealing with charity and all that, and yet my mind always thinks as, how do we make this practical? Apply it practically. So it's like, if I'm willing to do this for strangers, I should be even more willing to assist my own brother, or my own sister, or my own children, or my own parents. And I think a lot of people have misconstrued the fact that charity, how would we want to say that? Everybody, number one, doesn't want to deal with charity for themselves, the correct kind of charity. And the other issue is not dealing with charity of the people they are related to. And then yet they're so willing to run out and help people they don't know when they can't even deal with the people that they do know. So if you're out there doing all this charity for people you don't know and you treat your own like crap, I think mathematically a positive and a negative cancel each other out. You're back to zero.
Welcome back to another part where we're talking with my brother Tim on the various things that we're doing here in South Korea, or what he's been showing me, and some of his advice or words of wisdom. So I'm going to cut back to Tim here and let him continue.
We were speaking about charity and not helping those that you don't know and versus helping people that you do know. I do know that one thing that led me to invite you over here to help you out, and not only all the stuff you were talking about and the issues you were having, But part of it has to do with there are certain concepts that I don't know. I felt that you were needing to be introduced to help you view life as you struggle through it. One of those issues back now I haven't been back to the United States for about 18 years. And one of the things I did notice when I did go back for about 1 week, in which a lot of people say doesn't count as a visit to the United States, was during a funeral. And one of the things I did notice a lot when I was there was a complete void, no emotion. It was just a sense I got when I came back to the United States. It was like nothingness, and the sense everywhere I went. And as time has gone by, and you start noticing the people the soldiers or the people that come from the United States and come in here, and and you hear them talk and all that, it seems like that void or nothingness that I noticed in the United States when I was there to visit was replaced by nothing but pure anger. It's an environment. So what I've been doing is trying to get you kind of out of that environment to recollect your thoughts, to look around that there's more going on than to just sit there and always worry about how do I pay the bills? What am I going to do now? I'm getting taxed. There's all these issues going on in your head, and they'll always affect you. So some of the concepts I've actually been showing you have been many. Some of them are Kabbalistic, some of them are Masonic, some of them are what I would say Orthodox Judaic. That'd be the best way to put it. I am a Noahide, or what they call, I follow the 7 laws of Noah, or the 7 categories of laws given by the Creator to Noah after the destruction flood. I am not a Christian. We can go into that topic if you ever want to ask me specifics, but I am what I am. I'm just going to come out and say it like this: if you choose, whatever you will your life to be, you will be. And if your life sucks, you're depressed, in a lot of places like that, it's because you've chosen to be that way, or you choose to have drama. Life ain't about being all about drama or attention on me. Part of that goes in with some of the stuff I've been showing you about charity, and part of it deals with Kabbalah, however you want to say it. And you got to be careful with the types of that people claim to be Kabbalah and the people out there peddling it. You be very careful with it. I'm one of those that if it's divorced from the actual scriptures and its commentary on the Torah, then I'm going to spend my time looking for that rather than some quick fix fly by night, me controlling the environment, which I don't call Kabbalah. Back to the Kabbalah as far as the basic fundamental thought. Kabbalah really means simply to receive. And it talks about a method by which the student received from the teacher to a verbal method, or to receive, or from memory, and you verbally learned, or oral transmission of knowledge. Now, within that, though, when you start really digging through it, what you're finding out is what it's doing is you have the Creator, which is altruistic, constantly giving, needs nothing from us, and then we, the creature, are egocentric. It's all about me. Give me, take from the Creator, who is altruistic, constantly giving. But when you get down to what it's trying to teach you, it's not to become the Creator, but it's to actually learn how to properly receive from the Creator in order to give to others. And what that does is it actually enables others to look back to the Creator to properly receive and begin to give to others again. It comes around in a discussion that's found in the Zohar that deals with the whole purpose of relieving a man materially up to the point of what he was already accustomed to, so they can criticize back on the Creator, not giving them abundance, but giving him exactly what he was already used to. So that it takes away the evil inclination to become greedy or to commit crimes to gain that. So it's basically a social obligation that's inherent on everyone. But when you boil all that down, there's a lot of concepts you have to be introduced to, and that's what we've been doing since you've been here, is looking at all kinds of different ideas and how this one's been how one idea can be taken and misconstrued for another. I've introduced you to concepts like from the Kabbalion or the 7 Hermetic Principles, and you've said what most people say when they start to look at those, and it's like, wow, that's kind of like the scientific method. You've seen an interesting idea known as the Dark Night of the Soul.
Right, and that's by St. John of the Cross.
St. John of the Cross, Carmelite monk from Spain. And then you've seen other people have discussed as they go through it the things that are about to come. And when you look at the Dark Night of the Soul, and as it's happening, people will mistake that sometimes for depression. And it's not. You've seen some other ideas as we've been practically putting into use about exercise, getting out there and getting active, and you have to take time away and get away from everybody. Put your body through some physical motion of actually getting involved again with life, like exercising, walking. You can just walk. You don't need to sit there and run every day. Running doesn't accomplish anything more than walking the same for nonstop for 30 minutes. That's a scientific fact. All these things that I've been showing to you, and it comes with a caveat because I know other people are going to see this, is I'm no perfect being. I am not a guru. I don't see myself as some holy man where you need to ascend the mountain to finding out. I'm like everybody else. I'm a human being, a soul and a body, accomplishing what my soul was put here for. But I do believe it comes with responsibility that where you have been and where other people are struggling to get to, that everybody is responsible to hand them when they are ready to receive it. Hand them some guidance, some advice, and some other ideas to look at, whether they apply it or choose not to or choose to ignore it. That's up to them. It's not my problem. I'm hoping that everything you've done here with me has been beneficial. I've tried to show you the Eastern viewpoint. I mean, it seems to me that a lot of people are interested in Japanese culture or Eastern philosophy and all this, but they have some very bad usages with mistranslations of certain words and key terms, like karma. Everybody in the United States twists it to some not destiny, but they change it around to, like, some type of revenge form or thoughts that deal with revenge in some way.
Or some way to get a benefit out of it, like if you do enough good things, you're stacking
Yes.
karma in your favor and you won't get into trouble, which is not even...
That's not even close. Karma
Yeah.
simply means, when he comes back from India, karma just merely means destiny. And in that sense, everybody shares the same destiny. Physically, we're all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then you cannot have karma without its dharma. And dharma just simply means fulfillment. So in order to die physically, you must have lived physically. So it's your life, is your fulfillment. I know a lot of people will get weirded out with that and start saying, well, let the Buddha... Well, I'm talking about the words as they came about prior to Buddha. And then Buddha came along and said, the karma is trying to escape karma by constantly returning and physically dying and returning and physically dying. And then Dharma was his teachings to ascend from that by the non-attachment to things. That all of our pain and suffering arises from the attachment to things that are transitory in life, that are not really important, which in his view, nothing was important except to escape karma. And when people start misconstruing it in every place else, it gets really weird how they put that. Now, as you notice, you start seeing the symbols around here, the things that refer to shamanism based on Buddhism and all that stuff, and And it kind of worries me that you're going to go back with all these symbols, and then people back in the States are going to be hate-filled about things that are not important. I mean, because they'll see what we call the Wheel of Fortune. Back in the States, they think only of it as Nazi swastika and fascism, but that's not real. Here in the East, in Asia, that symbol simply means the Wheel of Fortune.
Which happened way before the Germans got a hold of it.
Well, it was a part of some German culture too, because Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, it's also used in some of that. And we'll have to admit it, Hitler and his group perverted that symbol. But there's nothing to be scared of. It's got nothing to, that doesn't mean anti-Semitism. Hitler turned it into that. And I'm constantly being advised by rabbis, and I love hanging out with the Jewish crowd and learning from them about many things about the Torah and the Tanakh and all that stuff. And it's interesting and beautiful to watch it as it's being explained. So that symbol really has no meaning, and I wish in the United States a lot of people would also stop categorizing everything through polarity of hatred. And I would say anger, but actually it's starting to turn more into hatred, and people are willingly being blinded by their hatred to follow typically nothing is what they're coming down to. But The Dark Night of the Soul was an interesting piece that I know you found very interesting, and how it develops, and people go through it. I've gone through it. I still go through it. Everybody goes through it. It's a never-ending process of transformation of the soul. Just remember, the soul was put here by the Creator into this vessel for a specific reason. The soul without the human body cannot experience time, space, motion, and matter. The environment that you're in must be one of empowerment, one that you can actually research, study, and learn to apply. Just because you've read a book doesn't mean anything. If you never learn how to apply it, then you still haven't learned anything. You know, and you saw a couple of conversations. We were out at the lodge. People were asking me what I thought about the Scottish Rite, Royal Lodge, and all that. And honestly, I could tell by the conversation they were trying to, thump their chest about all their beautiful, wonderful degrees. And quite honestly, I had to honestly answer that, you only need the 3 degrees of the craft and the fourth one, which is the marked degree, and as a completion of the 2nd degree in the Scottish craft. And if you study those properly, you really don't need all the other stuff. So I consider the Royal Arch more interesting than the Scottish Rite. And the Scottish Rite is basically a kindergartner's view of topics people have yet to even begin to understand. And it has no practical usage. They don't show you practically how to apply any of that stuff. And then when you try to get into it, people just get frustrated, angry, and upset. But hopefully all the techniques I've shown you here, or not just techniques, but the ideas and as they different ways of looking at life and how to apply them to come back to a right frame of mind. I don't know, which one of the topics did you find more interesting than another, or
On which one? On which part?
any of it? Because I know we've discussed
a lot. I know the topic of what is a soul and what makes a soul is interesting.
Yeah, you got to remember too that some of the things that we've discussed come from multiple layers of things. There's about like 4 layers, and I showed you the terms that are in Hebrew for that make up. When you look at something literally, allegorically, one might be legalistic, and then there's another one which is extremely hidden, a deeper one. But when you look at everything around you in life, it actually follows those 4 levels. And what you're trying to do is direct whichever one needs to come in and make itself appear in your life, and then apply it. Right. I think that's still the pursuit of truth, is not how many books I've read or how many people I've listened to, but it's how do I apply in my life a practical thing.
And the dark night of the soul kind of ties into all that because basically it's your own soul or inner self or your higher self basically chewing on, turning through, and going through all of that to try to make
Right, and here's
a
what's
sense
weird.
of it and bring it to you so you can understand it instead of being constantly.
When you look at all the topics like alchemy, hermeticism, Freemasonry, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. I know some bros are going to hear me say this, but I believe that the first 3 degrees have nothing that are exactly that. That's what they're describing as the process of the dark night of the soul. And I think that if some smart people listening to this that are in Freemasonry hear this, they'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about when you analyze first, second, and third degree. And then the fourth degree is your transformation. But you look across other systems that do the same thing, and you find out that they have a root soul of birth, new ideas, and then boom, struggle, life, toil, and then bam, we're into the last stage of and then it transforms. And so I'm not going to give it out like that on video.
All right, so a couple of questions. What is your definition of, or what's your definition or your ideas between living and existence? And I believe another question we had that was coming up was, what was it called?
We just go.
Not
with
the
it.
tenets of the. Is it the tenets of the soul or no? The.
We'll go into living.
Okay, well, go ahead and roll.
Well, what it is when I introduced you to a topic known as living versus existing, and you got to see some of the lectures given by a certain rabbi,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll just say living. Living is hard to do. Existing is easy to do. People in this reality, on this plane of reality, will say, "No, you're wrong. My existence is hard, and my living." But they're confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because living has to do with the interaction of my soul with your soul, my soul with another soul, and assisting that soul on its journey through life. Existing is paying my bills, paying my taxes, worrying about that stuff, and how do I control it. That's existing. And it's a really bad impact if that's all you're trapped up into it. In fact, I would call it what most people are involved in more, and it's very materialistic, and it seems satisfying when you've accomplished what you think it is, but then it always leaves another void within you to accomplish, to try to control more. Materialism is nothing more than control over your environment.
And just taking up space.
Yes, and you're just in space. You're here. You're in time and space, and you're just existing. And it's actually a very mundane, very boring, a very drag. It pulls you down. It does nothing for your soul. It's supposed to, your environment is supposed to empower and enhance your soul to be able to research, study, apply, to learn, to continue moving on. It's not supposed to be something that drags you down in place and anchors you. With that, I'll say another term, Arya Gavriel. That Arya means in Hebrew it's lion. Lion. And Gabriel, well, most people say, well, he's talking about Gabriel, the angel. Well, wrong. It's actually talking about, those words are symbols of themselves. That when you go back to the creation story in the Torah, it talks about that we were formed out of the earth, just like the beast of the field were. And so that's the beast of the animal, the lion. The lion is a term used to describe that we think we're all that. We're the king of everything. We control our environment. We can do whatever we want. And that's the beast in us, trying to control its environment, walk around dominating everything. That's the egocentric part of us. Then you have the Gabriel, where it says in the Torah where the Creator said, and he breathed into him a living soul. He didn't say, and we became a living creature. It means the living soul. We have that which when he was talking about, when it says, let us make man in our image. He was talking to the heavenly support the angels, the created beings that are spiritual. And he made us like that by breathing into us the living soul. The soul comes from the Creator. Now, when you talk about that living and existing, the soul has things it has to accomplish here. A lot of people would say, okay, what is that purpose? Well, one of those purposes is it's, how would I say, one of those is to properly learn how to receive in order to give. And it's the relieving of others within your sphere of influence. They're suffering to a certain point to where they can actually start to learn how to receive and in order to give around. That, in a nutshell, would be charity to me. The Gabriel part is the angelic or the spiritual or the soul part of it. Now, with that soul comes an obligation. I'm going to put it like this. A living creature, an animal. So it's the goldfish over there, a cat over there, a dog down there, with a turtle in there. The soul has an obligation for everything that comes in its path. So if I take upon a living creature, which I do believe and know that they have not a soul that recognizes the Creator, but then they see the Creator through us while they're still trapped within their animalistic nature by instinct and survival. That's all they know. But I represent the Creator to them and how I act toward them. So the same can be said about the obligation. If I choose to bring you into my sphere of influence and say, you brought over here to Korea, let's work on some things and help you out, I have taken on an obligation, a holy obligation, to assist nurturing that soul. If I bring a child into this world, then I am now obligated to nurture and to help that soul. If I take a dog into my house, then that is a soul, a living creature that I am obligated to nourish. And then I will be judged upon the nourishment or the malnourishment of that soul. In the end, that's how I look at it. Now, when we talk about existing and living, sometimes people want to take on too much. Everybody is still responsible for themselves. The only thing you can control, and I'm not going to say believe it, I know it. The only thing you can control is the choice you make. And you have to take full responsibility for it. If your life sucks, it means you suck. Your choices suck. The research or the in-depth study you did before you went into that choice. Either you didn't do any, which results in you suck. That's how you just pretty much say it. And there are a lot of people out there that want to suck. They do it on purpose, even though they're trapped in a habit of sucking at this, what they call living. Those kind of people, if they never want to move on, to move out of that habit of life sucks, life is depressing, boo-hoo, whatever, they never move on. What they're doing intentionally is bringing it against, they're dragging you down too. There's idiots out there that think that drama is always that, and it's not. Drama doesn't mean anything. If I want to watch drama, I'll go watch a movie. I don't need people like that. I mean, everybody's going to have their issues. You're going to interact with people. You're going to bump heads. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have good times. But that's not the point of living. That's just existing, bumping into other people. What I will say is that the choice you make, and you make a choice when you choose to do nothing. That's a choice too, and you're going to suffer the consequence or reward for it, short term, mid term, long term. You just have to accept the responsibility that you made that choice, or you made no choice and this occurred. You have to own it. So when you choose to live and interact with another soul to help nourish or malnourish, you are going to reap the consequences and rewards of that. To exist means, okay, I could give you a job, I could do this or that, and to assist you in your materialistic pursuit. But materialism doesn't really amount to nothing if you don't choose to use it to apply it to empowering your soul. That's how I view living versus existing. You know, what does my soul need? That's the part of living. What my body needs is existing. Any other questions?
Probably one interesting question that probably come up is how to phrase it. It would be along the lines of, what is your take on people saying you have to be in a building to have beliefs versus people who are not going to some place to congregate and worship?
My body is already, my soul inhabits a body built for it to live. The body is just as holy as the soul. And people misuse that all the time. What sacred space do I need? The entire planet is sacred. It was given to us by the Creator to provide us for all the things we need for the soul to move around with a body. I mean, I'm not so sure about where you're coming from on the need a building, but no building is holy except one, according to Old Testament or Torah and the Tanakh, and that was at the beginning was the tabernacle, and then it moves on to the temple. That's pretty much all it is. I mean, there is no, what do you call it, no other building outside of that.
So then, would most religions just be organized, or?
Well, it depends on what you mean by religion. Some people are using the term as a service to God, but I think what you see nowadays is man-made attempts to profit or to influence rather than anything resembling godliness. Or what would you have? Well, you got to remember, I've completely rejected Christianity, period. So when I'm asked those questions, they got to remember that I've already rejected anything that starts with Matthew and ends in Revelations. I'm not interested anymore. It's a system of failure. It's intended to make people feel guilty. And I see it as nothing more than 2,000-year-old neo-paganism, if you ask me. It's nothing. And then what you call neo-paganism nowadays is just an attempt to go back to nature, whether it's stuck under the old sun god worship symbols. Anything else?
Trying to think. And no, I don't have anybody talking to me here asking questions, unfortunately. Wow. Okay. My brain's gone blank. Anything you want to offer?
The only thing I can ever offer is to help people. I mean, if someone wants my help, they can all they have to do is ask, and if they don't want it, so be it. I do want to say this, that yeah, okay. I remember a topic that came up on what people would say, oh, this is a very controversial one to people not involved in it, but like people say, what is magic? Well, I remember introducing you to the written ideas of certain authors and stuff, but it's like, you know, it's basically trying to come to influencing an outcome using your will and using techniques not used by current scientific method. But, and I'm paraphrasing it badly, what I just said. What I would say, if you want to talk about magic, a spiritual change, or anything like that, is, based on my experience, is that the magic is nothing more than a change occurring within, and your environment adapting to that change. But then you're going to get into some other arguments. Plato versus Aristotle is one of them. Plato dealt with that the only way to know the Creator was through within, in here. And Aristotle said everything you seek about the Creator is without, or the environment. And these are what we now would term Plato's view would be microcosm, and Aristotle's view was macrocosm. And interesting, both are right. The microcosm reflects what's outside and can influence what's outside of us, but the outside can also influence what's within us if we're not careful. Anything else?
Nothing's coming to mind, so I guess what I'd want to ask is there anything that you'd want to say to any of the relatives that we have out there, or anything that you want to express? Because I'm pretty sure many of them are looking at these videos going, okay, this is the first time we've seen you in a while.
Okay, I can kind of explain how much time we got left on that.
Given what it's told me, we've got about 6 more minutes.
I would have to say that my self-imposed longevity away from everybody has more to do, and you need to understand this, has to do with more about me, working on me. Has nothing to do with family, against you, for you, whatever. I've been on a long journey of working on me, and I think many of you, had you had met me right after I got out of the Army, you would have probably have packed up and forbidden anyone to get near me during those wonderful, outrageous times I was having. Quite honestly, I think Sean's become to realize that he's met someone who just really doesn't care what anybody else thinks. My life is about me and how I use me to assist others. And I pretty much don't really care what people think about anything anymore.
That sounds like a pretty straightforward summary.
Yeah, when I realize that I have no expectations of other people other than their human nature, and human nature is like electricity, it will seek the path of least resistance. And once I accepted that, a lot of things started falling into place. And how would I put it? I know that one of the key ideas that you have to accept is your own death. It's going to happen. And I use that as, okay, when that happens, what am I going to do now that matters? The body dies, the soul lives on. What is alive cannot die. What is dead cannot live.
Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left. Anything you want to say to your kids?
All my kids thinks I'm nuts. I don't know what else to say to them other than live long and prosper. Well, I don't know. Give it your best shot. If it fails, try again. And then if you want my advice, always ask.
Anything to the parents?
No, we'll deal with that when it's time for the 50th anniversary, which is pretty cool. Nobody does that anymore, hardly.
Well, not very many people are married for that long anymore either. It seems like the current time is 1 year tops for a lot of marriages these days.
That's true. So, there are people that when we discuss, just like me and you, and trying to understand that there are always solutions or different ways of approaching or looking at life, and how to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish. There are a lot of people that come into our lives that are always down, depressed, using their disabilities, whatever it is, as an excuse, rather than taking life and trying to live or get better at it. Now, let me explain this real quick. There are people with actual real debilitating disabilities that require require more help or assistance or medical care or whatever, and have some truly disabling factors that they cannot, outside of themselves and the physical, can do anything. There's a lot of people that use their disabilities as a crutch or an excuse to continue to live down or be down in life. One of those, I would say, is people are always down, saying they're always depressed over issues. Where you were descending. And part of your issues were some of the people you have surrounding you continuing to drag you down. I've had people like that in my life. I'll go out on a limb and just say people that are vets, like me, combat experience with PTSD issues that have enhanced their problems. And their only way of solution to deal with it is drugs or alcohol. Number one, you're not going to get anywhere with those because all it does is enable you to sleep through life. You're not accomplishing anything. So you got to actually go face that demon and deal with it head on. There's a lot of people that have had disabilities in history, famous people. They didn't let it break them. The recent passing of a guy named Stephen Hawking. I mean, some people don't always agree with a lot of his theories, but there's a guy that was wheelchair ridden after a while. Started out brilliant, was walking life, and then sad circumstances happened, but he didn't quit. So when people with back problems or mental issues, or they claim they have them, and they're using their excuses not to get on in life, and oh, look at me, woe is me, and always in a downward spiral, they're just not being honest with themselves. You can even look at their own lives, and if they've never do anything but the same thing over and over and over, and yet when you approach them and give them certain things to certain ways to help them out of that situation or to think a way out of it, they're always going to claim, oh, I already know all this, I can handle this, I know what I'm doing. But their actions don't prove anything other than to repeat the same tragic life story over and over. And they actually get off on being the center of attention and drama. They don't want to fix anything. They just want to have a pity party. They want you to feel sorry for them or constantly drag you down by taking them with you. You know, they're going to bring you with them. There are people like that. And you got to let them go. They will do you no good. They bring more harm than they good. And they're doing this willingly. And they can say all they want about, I know. No, actually, to know something means to be intimate with it. And the only thing they do know is tragedy and pain and suffering and drama. That's all they'll ever know. They have no way of solving it. Or they just don't want to. And typically what it comes down to is people are just lazy. They don't want to try. And you have an obligation, if you start to understand the things that are unfolding in Kabbalah or the Torah or other things that you might learn through other societies, you have an obligation not to allow that kind of environment, to empower that. It's wrong. Quite honestly, I don't care who's watching this. If you're any of the things that I just described, you just need to get off your ass and do something better. You don't know shit. And I don't really care about whose feelings or what. That's pretty much how I feel about it. People use PTSD as a crutch. Face your demons and deal with it. I mean, you gotta start living. You can't just sit there and exist through it and become a drug-induced or an alcohol-induced person. I mean, it solves nothing. Most people say they have a problem with drinking or they have a problem with drugs. No, what they do have a problem with is life, and they need to go figure it out. And they're taking the cheap and easy way out by just sleeping or staying, I don't know, kind of like in a coma. That's all they're doing. They're putting themselves into a self-induced coma just to exist until they die. And so I don't feel pity, and I don't feel sorry for anybody in those circumstances, because you can tell real quick. And most people think you can't, but you can when you start looking at their words versus their actions and say, you want to be this way. You choose it. And then you have to force them into a choice. And one of those choices is either you choose to do something about it and we move on, or choose to do something, or choose to continue to do nothing without me involved. At some point, you're going to have to, what we call in the Chinook community, cut sling load. Time to cut that weight off, and before the aircraft comes in danger and comes crashing to the ground. The load is too much to bear and is causing danger to the aircraft. So you have to use that analogy as at some point, some people in your lives, you're just going to have to cut sling load and let it go and move on in life. A lot of people talk about it, famous authors and all that. We'll talk about it. You need to change the people you're involved with. And if they do you nothing, do you no good, then they are no good. And people don't want to hear that. You know, any questions or comments, or I don't know if you've actually seen that in your life, but I think you're beginning to notice the people that have drugged you down versus those who are seriously trying but they can't see the way out. There's a difference.
Well, I've seen a few, and actually coming to terms and coming to grips with the PTSD I was going through is what led me finally to this point of actually trying to go, okay, enough is enough. I actually want to fix this because obviously nothing else is working.
Well, part of the environment that we talked about that helped you here was what do you call it? Coming to an environment where I'm not going to judge. You say whatever you want, but I have no judgment. You tell me anything you want, but it's not up to me to judge. I'll give you some other ways to look at it, tell you some things that may or not help, and then you have to figure it out. I mean, you are ultimately responsible for what you do or don't do.
And that's what a lot of our discussions have been since over the 2.5 months I've been here, is mostly you just laying out a few things that you've observed or a few things that are possibly helpful, and whether or not I figure it out, that's on me.
Yes.
And it has helped quite a bit.
And I've noticed that your choices that you choose to apply and do have resulted in, I don't know, much more healthier you than I've seen.
It definitely has.
I mean, you're actually bouncing around here full of life and creativity instead of when you got here with a cane, worried about falling or seizing.
Yep, I don't even have that worry anymore. Yeah, every time I'm around here, all you do is you look at me and it's like, you're just really being creative, aren't you? It's like, yeah, I've got it back.
Yep. So I don't really know how to discuss that further, but the people that you bring into your life, it's also like if I want to suck, you're going to bring people to you that also want to help you suck at life. If you want to bring people that want to be positive and help and assist you out, and you want a way out and you want to be happy, or you want to be content so that you can continue to seek whatever it is your soul needs to seek, that will bring about the right people too. Now, don't avoid all turmoil.
Well, no.
Some turmoil is good. Some turmoil is necessary, and it's going to come no matter what you thought you did or didn't do. So, I don't know. Other people might think, oh, he's nuts. He's whatever. Well, I do know this. I do know from watching my own life and re-inspecting it that what I'm saying does work. And anybody out there that knows what I'm talking about will sit there and go, he's telling you the truth.